Brothers and sisters, thanks for joining me. I want to talk to you about something that's very important to the Lord. It's His glory. I want to remind us of a couple stories from the Old Testament. The Ark of the Covenant was held by the Philistines, and they were experiencing tremendous diseases in their cities where the Ark was. They finally decided to send it back to Israel. And to test to see if the God of Israel was the one causing it, they took two oxen who had never been yoked and they had just given birth to calves. And they loaded the ark onto a wagon. These two oxen, as they went, Scripture says they were lowing, they were mooing, they were groaning as they left and headed towards Israel. Why? Because they had their own babies back home. They'd never been on a yoke before. But because they were carrying the glory of God, the Ark of the Covenant, they pressed on. Today, His servants, His bondslaves, you know who you are. You belong to Him. And for those of you out there that want to say things because these men and women aren't perfect and they have their nuances that bother you, I remind you, be careful. Because when this ark arrived, there were 70 people slain from Beth Shemesh, 1 Samuel 6, because they looked upon the Lord's ark. They said, who can stand before this holy God? Another example, in 2 Samuel, Uzzah touched the ark because it was riding on a wagon and it shook, and he went to touch it to stabilize it. He was struck dead. David was angry, and Scripture says he was afraid of the Lord. Friends, the Most High, who does not dwell in temples made with hands, is not common. His servants who carry the Ark of the Covenant, who carry the glory, His words, His oracles, to His church, to His people, to the world, to the lost. Be careful what you say. These last days we're in, we're approaching first century times, where the church walked in holiness, where the gifts and calling were secondary and the holiness of Christ was the primary concern of their hearts. Tony, that's the Old Testament, really. Ask Ananias and Sapphira in Acts chapter 5. They lied to the holy apostles about some land and the money. They both fell dead. My friends, don't touch the ark. Don't go treating it as something uncommon when you see a man or woman anointed by the Spirit. Yes, they should have character, and it should be holy. But they're frail. They're jars of clay like you and me. Take this message before the Lord. Think about what you're saying. Jesus said we're supposed to love one another, care for one another, and to go personally before others if we have a problem, instead of joining the slander campaign. Personally message people if you have an issue with them. Then if that doesn't work, you take another person and go to them. You don't go on TikTok. You do not go on Facebook. You don't do any of those things. You call, email, message privately. You've been warned. God's temple is holy. It's not common. He's coming soon. And He is holy. My friends, He's not coming to take sides. He's coming to take over. No person that I know has perfect theology, and I'm sure none of us are going to get to heaven and Jesus say, Tony, you had perfect theology. Not one. Not one. Jesus said, judge a tree by its fruits. Then you'll know if it's a good tree or bad tree. Friends, honor the Lord. They're His servants. They're not yours. You don't give to them, you give to the Lord. This is not about you. It's not about them. It's about Jesus, and let's keep it that way.